Article 2 talks about the executive branch and the presidency. And in Section 1, it discusses the qualifications of office and the proceedings for how to elect the president and vice president. The executive branch of the United States government includes the president and the vice president, who will serve together for a term of 4 years. The next part here, it gets really convoluted and confusing. So what we're going to just say is it outlines the Electoral College system. And people vote for their electors in their states and not directly for president. When you vote, you're voting for who is going to get the electors in your state, not for who's going to be president. The person earning the highest number of votes in the Electoral College is going to be elected president, so long as that number constitutes a majority of the electors. If no one won a numerical majority of the votes, then the House of Representatives has to choose a president from the top 5 candidates. And in the case of a tie, the House has to choose between the top 2. For the House of Representatives to conduct the vote, 2/3 of the state have to be represented, which is a quorum. Each state gets a single vote. The candidate has to win a majority of the votes in order to get elected president. All of that changed in the 12th Amendment, and it revised the election process in Congress, but we still have the Electoral College system. In every case, the second runner-up would become the vice president. If there was a tie for vice president, then the Senate would vote to determine the winner, and the 12th Amendment in 1804 changed this process so that the candidates are clearly listed as running either for president or for vice president. And Congress determines the time for states to choose their electors and the date that the electors' votes are due, and that date is the same for all states. So to be president, you have to be a natural-born citizen, and you have to be, or have become a citizen by the time the Constitution was passed. The president has to be at least 35 years old and have lived in the United States for the last 14 years. If the president dies or is removed from office or resigns or otherwise is unable to discharge the power of the office, then the vice president assumes the duties. Congress has the authority to determine by law who will perform the presidential duties if both the president and the vice president are unable at the time to perform that because of death, resignation, or other circumstances. The person chosen by law of Congress will remain in power. Now, in 1967, we have the 25th Amendment, which basically outlines a very clear line of succession. The president receives a salary, but that salary can't change as long as he's in a period of his election. He doesn't receive any other payment from the United States or any state during the term in office. The salary presently is $400,000 a year, and it's a $50,000 annual expense budget, and that's determined by Congress. The president takes an oath before he can officially have the power of the presidency. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of the President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. You notice, so help me God is not there, but George Washington was the first to put his hand on a Bible and say, so help me God. Now, what's interesting is that in 2009, Chief Justice Roberts accidentally misquoted the oath, and President Obama had to take it over again in his office on the next day just to be on the safe side. All right, Article 2 is dealing with the presidency and the executive branch. The president is the commander-in-chief of the Army and the Navy and the militia in every state. The president can request in writing the advice of the highest officer in each executive department, and this is what was used to establish what's called the cabinet in 1789. The president has the authority to grant pardons in every case except for someone who has been impeached. The president has the power to make a foreign treaty, but you have to get 2/3 of the senators to agree. The president can nominate or appoint with the approval of the Senate an ambassador or another public administrator or a judge of the Supreme Court and other officials not provided by the Constitution but provided by law. which basically is what they call the Plum Book. We'll talk about that when we get to bureaucracy. Congress can specify the nature of those appointments, and they can decide whether or not to invest the president with the authority over that appointment or to grant that person a separate authority of their own. And if a vacancy occurs while the Senate is out of session, the president has the authority to fill it temporarily until the end of the next Senate meeting. That's called an intersession appointment. Article 2, the executive branch and the presidency. Section 3, the presidential duties. The president occasionally has to give a speech in the Senate on the State of the Union. He recommends to Congress actions that he deems necessary. He has the authority to convene both of the houses, but in either house, in an emergency session, he can call them in. If the two houses are in disagreement about when to adjourn, the president has to determine when they'll adjourn. He receives ambassadors and other public ministers. He ensures that all laws are executed and the commissions of all officers of the United States are his responsibility. And then we have impeachment. The president can be impeached and removed from office for offenses that include treason, bribery, and other high crimes and misdemeanors. And this is not really well defined what a high crime or misdemeanor is. The House drafts the accusation, which is called an article of impeachment. The Senate will convict, which is to remove from office. An official who's been impeached cannot be punished beyond the removal of office and him being forbidden from having another federal office. They can't be given civil or criminal punishment. That